situation. So we delay for some clinical method learning related with the patient in the real time. So we need to waiting for the best time to continue our clinical COVID-19 protocol in the hospital for the student practice. So we need think about this one with the digital education in nursing practice, especially in nursing practice. For the academic learning, I think digital is very good. Uh, but for the clinical practice, we have some limitation. I just mentioned before. This is my simple presentation today. I hope you understand what.
that we are actually more similar than different. And with that, we are given the opportunity to explore how we can collaborate to address the issues, the challenges, so that we can learn from each other and help improve education and educating our nurses to contribute to the ailing global health workforce. So allow me to start off by sharing to everybody my context. Okay, coming from the Philippines, we have recognized the imminent danger associated with the pandemic around February. So the government has declared a state of public health emergency last February of this year. And by March, the Philippines has already declared different quarantine measures across the country. And we're still on quarantine. There are several areas in the Philippines that are still on quarantine. And we know very well that with the quarantine, we're limiting people's movement. This is again part of the recommendations of the WHO. So adhering to these recommendations, the government here in our country eventually implemented various strategies to help control and limit the spread of the infection of COVID-19 among population groups. And this includes very strong recommendations on the use of physical distancing, limiting people's movement, of course, the basic hand washing, and others. Now, the implication is obvious that with limiting people's movement, what else? With physical distancing, there is really a strong need to suspend classes, face to face, on site, on campus. Why? It's because gathering of people will facilitate the spread of online learning. That's why I entitled the sharing this morning as the pandemic shift. And with this inevitable shift to online learning, it's quite obvious that most of us are unprepared, both in structure, both in systems, and we will talk more of these issues, okay, as we go through the discussion. So just like what was mentioned earlier, nursing education in the Philippines, in our context, just like all of us coming from different countries, we know very well that nursing education is highly skill based. And I think that's the greatest challenge. It's because although we are in an era in which we are supposed to be high tech, nursing remains to be high touch. So the nursing education program in the Philippines, as regulated by our government agency, the Commission on Higher Education, came up with a memorandum order for the new Bachelor of Science in Nursing way back in 2017, and we're currently on outcomes based. It definitely requires not just didactic for the theoretical, it requires definitely a lot of hours, thousands of hours for the clinical exposure of our students. And we call it related learning experience. So I'm showing, by the way, to everybody my context as an educator, handling undergraduate nursing students in the clinical area. My area is public health. And as you can see, here are my students in the municipal health office and in the community clinic in one of the areas that we're serving here. So the concept of nursing education in the Philippines requiring several hours of practicum is definitely a big challenge, okay, in the light of the pandemic today. So I was sharing to everybody earlier that the issues, okay, with the inevitable shift online definitely brings about on top of the list preparedness. And one of the major problems that we have encountered and we're still struggling with at the very moment would be issues on connectivity and internet connection, limited to certain areas. And just like Indonesia, the Philippines as an archipelago would have issues on access to the internet, not only in terms of connection, but even among, by the way, the different strata of economic status. Not all students doesn't have the gadgets, nor they have what we call a direct access to internet connection, or probably their location is so remote that connectivity definitely becomes an issue. Another thing is that with the eventual shift, the inevitable shift to online learning, we have seen that resources are very limited in the sense that the use of or deployment of learning platforms, support resources to aid and complement learning, definitely scarce. And this made it difficult for academics in designing, implementing their courses in nursing, particularly over the last few months when the quarantine has started. And at the same time would be the competence of the educators, the academics, in facilitating the online learning of our students. Now, coming from our perspective, academics in the Philippines are also varied in terms of what we call the age profile. And some of our academics belong to an older generation group, a more mature generation group. We also have a group who are very young. So obviously the generation divide is an issue even among the educators and the one who will deliver the learning to our students. And with the pandemic requiring again a sudden shift to online, it made it difficult, particularly for those who may not be so adept in the use of what we call technology in delivering their courses. Plus, some of us, okay, based on my experience, particularly those from the advanced age group, find it uncomfortable Okay, delivering, by the way, a lecture or a certain topic with somehow limited participation and responsiveness of our students. And this is where training is very crucial. So with that sudden shift, we were not given ample time to equip ourselves with the pedagogy that is required so that we can adapt, to be more flexible, and to get used to the feel of a virtual learning environment. Another issue that we have dealt with, okay, with the onset of the epidemic here in our country, impacting nursing education would be acceptance among our students. In a student poll in one of the universities I am affiliated with, most of them believes that the use of virtual learning has been uh, more of compliance rather than achieving learning outcomes. And I think with that, it sends a strong signal to decision makers, to educators, that there is really a need, okay, for us to look into how are we really delivering um, our classes, and how are we able to help our students navigate through the learning outcomes that the nursing program requires. Now, another issue would be utility. So when we talk about utility, we're talking about are the things that our students acquire from learning uh, engagements online. Can they necessarily translate it to their practice in the future? And I think this is where other stakeholders comes into the complicated scenario. It's because we need to ensure, as of the moment, coming from our context in the Philippines, knowing that there are a lot of our health workers who eventually succumb, okay, to COVID-19. They eventually acquire the infection doing their job. So we're having a strain on our healthcare system right now, and we're having some limitations with health manpower. So there is really a need to strike a balance between economic demands of providing a healthcare workforce, and at the same time looking into whether those who recently acquired the Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree from our higher education institutions can really use whatever last minute learning they have received via online, okay, when they're already practicing. And there are questions among some of the academics and even some government regulating agencies in the Philippines that maybe are these graduates really full our exams, which is the usual pen and paper test, if delivered online, still valid? Will that, by the way, genuinely reflect learning outcomes? So these are things that we have to consider. So with that, most of us has to struggle with stripping ourselves with the usual mode of relying on such evaluation tools. And by circumstances, we were compelled to be innovative and explore other options, which I will share later when we talk about way forward on how to address all of these issues. Now, although this pandemic has shown several challenges, there are also some opportunities that we can capitalize on so as to lighten a bit the probably gloomy situation that we are into. Um, so, in the Philippines, most of our students in the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program are Gen Z or Generation Z learners. So those who were born 1995 and beyond. And we know very well that according to authors, that Gen Z learners were already born with the gift of having internet access. So they are the generation that is high tech. So they were born already with the privilege somehow that at the tip of their fingers, they have access to so much information. Now, studies revealed that Gen Z learners have what assets, okay, for online learning. First, they highlighted that these are groups of learners that enjoys using internet, and this are obviously seen on their use of social media. Okay, and this use of social media has consumed much of their hours on a day-to-day basis, and so they're used to the virtual mode in terms of engaging people, receiving information, and processing information. Now, second advantage, knowing that currently among our students that they belong to Generation Z learners, is that these are students who value brief, exact, precise information. Although the downside probably is that their attention span, okay, and their focus, okay, is a bit fluid. So there is a need for us to directly hit, okay, their attention, and therefore, implication is that those designing and delivering courses in the nursing program has to select what are the key information or key concepts that are crucial to build on their competence as future healthcare providers. Now, another opportunity, knowing again the nature and orientation of our Gen Z learners, is that this will offer some flexibility on how we deliver instruction, okay, for the nursing education program. And this is where we can go for synchronous and we can go for asynchronous learning. And when we say it's synchronous, it means you're all meeting at the same time. Okay. You can also go for asynchronous. Okay. In the event that connectivity issues is a problem, then you can have a pre-recorded instruction for the delivery, again, of the concepts or the topics that must be accomplished for a certain time frame. Another one would be engaging again our learners to make use of other forms of learning, not relying only on lectures, not relying just on videos, but giving them a hands-on opportunity to engage clients, okay, as a way of building on communication and relating with others. Now, and as I was saying again earlier, with the virtual mode of learning and online delivery, we can also engage stakeholders. And what do we mean by stakeholders? We can include, by the way, industries that can aid us, okay, in providing input, okay, to our students that will help them picture better what is waiting for them in the real world. And I think having these stakeholders and even experts who may be coming outside, okay, of our country, okay, is very much feasible using this approach. Now, by experience, in one of the courses that I handled last semester, I was able to invite a few of our alumni who were my former students, already located in other parts of the globe, primarily in the US, some are in the UK, to share their experience with COVID-19 in their places of work. And student feedback, okay, showed that these testimonies from stakeholders, what else, graduates, or those who are already experienced nurses, gave a significant impact to the enthusiasm of our students in pursuing professional practice in the near future. Now, on my end, I was delighted to know that all in dealing with this pandemic. Now, what can we are seeing right now that health is not just for all, but knowledge is for all. And the subscription to certain, by the way, resources will somehow limit opportunities for some of our students and even those who are delivering courses. So as of this now, the challenge is really talk to people so that we can see how we can work together in order to address, again, all of these issues. So here are my references based on what I just shared with everybody. And I look forward to listening to your questions, and probably we can share more later during the session. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis, for your presentation. A very well-informative presentation. A while ago, you mentioned that I guess Indonesia and Philippines, we have really same difficulties or challenges in facing this pandemic, yes, sir. As mentioned also by Bapak Wantonoro, the connectivities, the resources we have so limited, and we're hoping that yes, we can only just hope that this pandemic will end soon. And also you mentioned about the acceptance, and I'm sure not only in the Philippines but also in Indonesia as well. Acceptance is still a problem, and also it's not only the problem of the students but also from the lecturer's view. It's you become more pressured because you have to be innovative. Maaf Ibu, tidak ada suaranya.
Ibu Nurul mungkin bisa tanpa pakai headset Ibu, pakai laptop aja coba, dicabut aja headsetnya, tanpa headset, coba dicabut.
Masih belum ada suaranya Ibu. So our participants, we're having some technical error, but we will fix this. Maybe we can give Ibu Nurul a time. So before Ibu Nurul, we would like to remind everyone, if you have any question, you may type it in the Q&A. Jika ada pertanyaan, bisa diketikkan di bagian Q&A dan mohon untuk dicantumkan kepada siapa pertanyaan tersebut ditujukan. Okay, while fixing this, Ibu Nurul, mungkin kita akan berikan waktu dulu untuk memperbaiki sounds or microphone-nya. Dan kita akan kembali ke Ibu Nurul. Mungkin now we will switch the program. We have here, for our next, we have our keynote speaker, Ibu Lili Nurlaili. While waiting for Ibu Nurul, Ibu Lili may be already siap. So here, we have here our next speaker, the Education and Culture Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Manila. Kepada Ibu Lili Nurlaili, kami persilahkan.
Thank you, Mbak Manet. Selamat pagi. Good morning, everybody. Magandang umaga. My Honorable Professor Earl Francis R. Sumile from CEU, Centro Escolar University. Thank you. You have a time to as a speaker today. And then my honorable yang saya hormati Bapak Wantonoro dari Muhammadiyah, and my honorable Idris and document and everything. I hope this webinar is useful for the Muhammadiyah and for the CEU, Centro Escolar University. Okay, this is my presentation. Maybe you already hear or know about the blended learning, but maybe just only a few of you, know about the hybrid learning, because that is maybe the new one right now. But the implementation hybrid learning already implementation at the Harvard University from 6 years ago. And then 2 days ago, I'm watching the webinar international. They are talking about hybrid learning. And then right now, maybe I just give explanation about hybrid learning. The hybrid learning is from traditional online to the modern online. Hybrid learning that is beneficial for nurses. Alternative learning activities for new school year. Case-based learning, case study, case analysis, concept mapping, and etc. Guided skill practice, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning. For example, synthesis paper, position papers, journal updates with analysis and critiquing, etc. Self-directed learning activities, reflective journaling, learning insight, learner's portfolio, and then clinical simulation and collaborative learning. E-learning divided into two, namely, synchronous is a learning process with the same time or real time. Example, teachers can interact online with students. Learning like this can be done with the Zoom application, Google Meet, and others. While asynchronous is a learning process by looking at material that has been prepared previously in the form of the learning video. Hybrid learning and blended learning can often be mistaken for one another. One both contain many of the same instructional elements. However, both are two distinct learning models. Blended learning combines in-person teaching with a synchronous learning method, where students work online exercises and watch instructional video during their own time. Hybrid learning is a teaching method where teachers instruct in person and remote students at the same time. In hybrid learning models, a synchronous teaching method can be used to supplement synchronous face-to-face instruction. Blended learning focuses on the combination between offline and online learning, whereas hybrid learning is about finding the right mix for you out of all the possibilities in learning, no matter if they end offline or online. Hybrid in the name commonly used nationwide to describe courses that combine face-to-face classroom instruction with computer-based learning. Hybrid courses move a significant part of courses learning online and as a result, reduce the amount of classroom seat time. Usually, hybrid and online courses much more challenges, and students frequently fail to realize that they are require more work than traditional courses. Taking a courses strictly online can be even more daunting than a hybrid one pairing that is handed off the methodology. I mean, not only using online, but they are preparing the module and then give to the student. And this is face-to-face, but still protocol 1.5 distance. Benefit of hybrid learning. Both face-to-face and online learning have their benefits and weaknesses. The goal of hybrid learning is to combine the two formats to create a singular learning experience without any weak spots. The benefit of hybrid learning are: first is flexible learning experience. Many schools transition to hybrid learning for flexibility. A flexible learning schedule, flexibility in teaching mode, flexibility in how students engage with their learning material, and flexibility in collaboration and communication between peers and their structure. For students who aren't able to attend classes in person, the hybrid learning environment allows them to learn remotely from home. Synchronous communication opportunities. This is the number second. Few learning experiences match the immediacy and intimacy of in-person academic discussion. The face-to-face aspect of hybrid learning benefit from the opportunity to real-time engagement between peers. This time is best used for synchronous group work, presentation with Q&A portion, and deep conversation. Take advantage of the in-person time of the have together to form meaningful academic relationship and then take those relationships online. Number three, the freedom of independent academic exploration. Online learning comes with many freedom. Those students who excel at self-management and independent learning will thrive under this freedom. The freedom to learn from the location of their choosing. The freedom to revisit materials any number of times at any pace. And the freedom to develop an in-depth asynchronous discourse with your peers. Number four, more efficient use of resources. Just like when you attend a meeting that you know could have been an email. It can be frustrating to attend an in-person class where all the students are doing individual virtual work. When planning your syllabus and scheduling with classes that take place online and which are face-to-face, take into account what resources you will need for each lesson and plan accordingly. Optimize the use of resources. The principle for designing hybrid learning. First is using technology purposefully, connecting to a bigger picture, doing reflecting and applying, making and building stuff, designing for diversity. For hybrid course not mentioned in the face-to-face section is the deliverance of information, while in-person time is reserved for synchronous and group discussion. The majority of personal assignment will be done virtually. Additionally, the other activities that make up the online portion of your hybrid class can include self-paced learning and activity completion, automatic grading programs such as multiple choice of true-false quizzes, asynchronous group discussion, written critical analysis and thoughtful discourse, video or oral content consumption. Create and source content. Once you've map out the module in your course, you'll need to create and source the content that will be used by your student. This is the time for you to create assignment, fill all reading material, source your video content, and finalize your syllabus. If your school has experience with hybrid classes, adapting archive resources and tailoring them to fit your class structure is a great place to start. Additionally, resources can be found on flagship education website and managing discussion forum. Give your hybrid learning plan to a trial run. Congratulations, you've created a successful hybrid learning environment. The only entrepreneurial activities. Students develop entrepreneurial activities independently as evidenced by explanation or proposal for entrepreneurial activity approved by the university, both at home and abroad. Example of formal organization that can be approved by the Chancellor are the Indonesian Red Cross, Mercy Corps, and others. Thank you, maraming selamat. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Ibu Lili, for sharing regarding this another approach, which is the hybrid learning. Again, thank you so much, Ibu. And now we will proceed to our next speaker. Hopefully, Ibu Nurul is now okay with the microphone, Ibu.
Yeah. Okay.
Kepada Ibu Nurul Istiqomah, you may start your presentation.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry for the error technical, Mrs. Gonzalez. Yeah. Okay, thank you for Mrs. Gonzalez that already gave the opportunity to me to present. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nurul Istiqomah. I'm a lecturer in nursing department in S.P.K.M.B Muhammadiyah, Surakarta. And then I would like to say thank you also to Council of Higher Education of Muhammadiyah, and then Education and Attached Indonesian Embassy, Manila, and of course Centro Escolar University that already give the opportunity to Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta for share our experience. And then I would like to say thank you also to our rector that already give opportunity, especially to me, that represent Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta. Okay. Wait. In this opportunity, I will share about the moving up Sp.Ku from traditional digital classroom in pandemic COVID-19. Talking about Sp.Ku, let me share the location of Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta first. You can find in the Google Map with Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta. And then if you will come to Indonesia, maybe you can come to Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta, and then you can found this building, the orange building. Why orange? Because the orange color is identical with Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta. Okay. Talking about the COVID-19, we know that almost all of the world get impact of this COVID-19, including in Indonesia. The first case of COVID-19, so Sp.Ku have to use internet in lecturing. And we use, like I said before, the Sp.Ku have learning management system use this one, but the lecturer can also use the Google, like Google Classroom. So let me share about the learning management system of Sp.Kep.M. Muhammadiyah Surakarta. This one is learning management system of Sp.Ku, custom by Moodle, that it created by our IT team to make this learning management system. And of course, that we already give the socialization for the lecturer and the student about how to use learning management system. And then what we can do with learning management system, so many facility that we can do. For example, we as a teacher can give the material, and then another material, or we can give like assignment, and then we can make a discussion in this facility, chat facility, or in the forum facility. For the assignment is in this facility. Okay, and then this picture explains to us about the participant. It means the students, our students. All of our students can log in to this. For example, that our lecturer, Mrs. Sulastri, for example, that give a discussion with the her students to discuss about the needs of about this topic. Besides, we have learning management system. We also have live video, live lecturing with the students. We usually use Google Meet, Zoom, or OBS video, but we usually use more in Zoom meeting. Okay, I will explain my experience that I also make a video of my explanation in PowerPoint, but I recorded with the OBS video. Why I do that? Because it's for the second scenario. Maybe not all of my students have a good internet connections. Maybe some students not have a good connection. So I prepared this video. If my student cannot follow my lecturing in a Zoom meeting, so I already put the link of this video in the learning management system of ITS PKU. So the student maybe one day before we start our lecturing, they already know the material through this video. Or maybe some students cannot follow the explanation well, so they can open this video again to know what the material. And then talking about the examinations, if in the traditional method, we do the examination or the evaluation of the student in the classroom with the paper-based test, like in this picture. Yeah, the student can come to classroom, but now because of the pandemic COVID-19, they can't. So we have to move in learning management system. We use the facility in learning management system, like in this picture, like in this one. The questions not in paper-based test, but already in this one, upload in learning management system. The student will get the schedule of the test first, that consists of subject, day, time, and the password to open the questions. It means that every subject matter has a different password. And then the student only can open the questions in that time. So we can, as a lecturer, we can set the, we as a lecturer and our IT team set the evaluations for the date, and then for the time, and then for the password. So the student can open when the time for test is coming. There is the advantages using the LMS of ITS PKU for the for this examination or evaluations. There is analysis of validity in every questions. I mean that in this learning management system, we can look in the graph about every question that lecture give. For example, one questions, we can know the graphic. If from one, for example, from 153 students, only 2 students that give correct answer, there is a problem with this question. So we can make an evaluations to change the question in the next examinations. And then for this LMS, can make more flexible. It means that lecturing and studying didn't need to go in classroom. But I know that even there is an advantages, but there is disadvantages. For the disadvantages, maybe about the poor connections of the student, because of not all of my students have a good connections. And then I I also want to share about the thesis on our scientific writing defense that we have. Before COVID-19, we use the traditional method for the defense. We can meet between the teacher and the students. But after COVID-19, we use the virtual. Usually we use the Google Meet or Zoom meeting, but in this picture we use WhatsApp video call because my student have not a good connect to use Zoom, so we move in WhatsApp video call. But maybe the student cannot present the material, but my student need to send to the teacher 1 day before the defense. And then these two articles show that about the effectively giving the video for increased nursing skill laboratory. Yeah, when in a traditional method for nursing skill lab, we do the nursing skill in our laboratory. But after this pandemic COVID, we can do it. So we need to move in another method. So we decided to use the method of share the video. The lecturer must make a video first for every skill. Like in this example, it's only screenshot that I make a video how to give heat and cold therapy to the children. I make the video first, and then I share to my students in every small group, and then I have to make discussions, and the discussions can through the LMS or another media. But not for all of the skill we can practice directly. I mean that if the skill need simple equipment, the student can practice directly at home. For example, head and these two article is support us why we do implementation of online learning. That online learning give advantage, but there is disadvantage. I mean, there is a weakness of giving learning, online learning. And then we need to prepare, and we need to know how about our implementation, and we need to know the evaluation of our online or digital classroom. In the preparation, we need to prepare a learning system. We need to build the LMS, and then we need to know how about the human resources. I mean the IT team and the lecturer itself. And then how about the hardware? We need to prepare about the maybe the server, internet connections, about the computer, laptop, and then how about the internet connections? We need to prepare about the internet connections, and then for the syllabi, for the material. And in the implementation, Sp.Kep.M.B Muhammadiyah Surakarta not 100% use the live video, but usually we use 15% for live video and 15% for learning management system. Maybe we will give to the students 100 minutes, so we divide it become 15 minutes. First we discuss in Zoom meeting, and then we continue in the LMS. For the evaluations, we evaluate the online implementations, how about our quality of online learning, and how about the evaluation of learning achievement regarding with the material that lecturer give to the student. Yeah, like I explained before, that for the preparation, we need the IT team. We have to have a great IT team, and we have it. And then besides IT team, we need a server. Why? Because, for example, if the student will get the examinations, this all of our student will access together in one time. So we need a big server. If we only have a small server, so maybe not all of the student can access together to do the evaluation from home maybe. And then we need to prepare the the lecture, like from Centro Escolar University said that the lecturer need to, uh, I can say that need to have high motivation because very deep. And then we upload the evidence that our campus enroll in the ministry. It's also important. Maybe that's my answer.
Thank you so much, Ibu. We have another question addressed to you, Ibu. From Miss Susi Simanjuntak. Hi, Miss Nurul. Glad to know that there are many methods that you and your team can use for teaching students. And now we have here a question from Mr. Bahrun Amin, and I assume this question is addressed to Sir Francis. A while ago, sir, you mentioned about the way forward, the rethink and redesign. So I guess this question is addressed to you. I am a language teacher, but to my mind, it has a similar learning process with the nurse in case with their skill building process. So is there any experience can we explore in this pandemic situation?
Thank you so much for the question. Actually, I would like to share to everybody. I think 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with some academicians, some academics from the US, and we were exchanging ideas on how to address that area on facilitating learning, particularly on skills. And we were asking them how are they doing it, how are they coping, and then their remark was, please don't expect us to answer, we don't have the solutions, because as of the moment they are still exploring. So using simulation entails of course preparation, no? And you have to look into, is it high fidelity simulation or low fidelity? So you have to weigh on what particular topics or concepts can be channeled through simulation, and whether it is feasible on the resources that students have. Like for example, for nurses, simulation like what Miss Nurul has shared earlier, if it requires minimal technology like hit and cold application, I think we can do that. So the role of the educator, the facilitator, is to come up with scenarios so that we can give them close to the real thing. Like we have to give them a scenario that here is a patient, okay, with fever, okay, with this condition, and these are the vitals, okay, and then you're going to render heat or cold application. So what equipment can you prepare? So I think that's doable at home. But other skills, I think that's the major challenge for all of us, like um, performing certain skills like IV therapy, catheterization. I think these are issues that we still need to explore with regards to deployment of simulation for skill-based learning.
Thank you so much, sir. We would like to inform our participants, if you have any question, you may type it
Sources that
in the
students
Q&A,
have. Like for example,
and
for
kindly
nurses,
state to whom should we address your question. And now we have here we have a question from chat box. Again, we would like to remind, if you have any question, please type it in the Q&A. So the question addressed to Sir Francis: how do we cope with the rural and remote area, for instance, in Indonesia, coping the shift from on-site to online learning?
okay, thank you also for that question. Perhaps we can refine the question on what specifically do we mean by coping with rural and remote areas. Um, coping in terms of, is it connectivity, is it in deployment, or is it coping with how we adapt, by the way, the delivery of learning, okay, for public health. I don't know if that's the concern of the participant. Is it how do we, by the way, uh, deliver public health courses that requires field work in rural areas in this time of the pandemic? If that will be the question, then I will have to uh, share with everybody that what we were doing over the last few weeks, over the last academic year that just concluded here in the Philippines and in the institution, is that we do, by the way, field work or immersion for communities. And since the outset of the pandemic has prevented us from doing so, we resorted not to simulation but more on case scenarios. And this entails um, organizing a series of conferences, synchronous sessions to discuss certain topics. Like if it's community diagnosis, if the topic is about community diagnosis, then the scenario was uploaded ahead of time. And then they look into certain key topics related to the community diagnosis, like understanding the social determinants of health. And then on our sessions, we schedule it at the time convenient for everybody. And this is where flexibility comes in. Although we have our own learning management system, but by experience, most of our students do not prefer the use of the learning management system. They still prefer the use of actually social media platforms. That's why we have to be open on the use of Facebook chat, Facebook group chat at times, Viber. I mean, at times it's Google Meet, but by experience, most of them prefer Zoom because their connection allows them to use it better compared to our learning management system. So that's how we address the public health learning component for rural area exposure. But field work, definitely not possible as of the moment. Now, in terms of planning right now for the next academic year, because we still have the same course, uh, as of the moment, our agreement is to still use the same approach. And for those students who will still be in the nursing program for the next couple of years, once once the situation has improved, then we can do an audit. We're planning audit courses to address whatever gaps, okay, that has arisen from the limitations with the delivery of learning outcomes. I think that's all.
Thank you so much, sir. And now we have another question here addressed to Ibu Nurul. The question is how to plan ahead when entering the practice phase but still in a pandemic set condition. Question from Miss Purwani, PKU Aisyiyah Hospital Boyolali.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the questions. How our plans to face clinical practice when still in pandemic COVID-19? Is it that question, Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We have a plan that we still wait the policy from the hospital that we used to practice first, and then we still need the policy from our city, and then the policy from Association Indonesian Nurse Education Center. How about the policy first? If the policy already give us the opportunity to make practice at the hospital, so we can do it, but with COVID-19 protocol that very strict to our students. Maybe that's my answer.
Thank you so much, Ibu Nurul.
Ms. Manette, I think I would like to add to Ms. Nurul's
Please.
response. I think this is my appeal actually to my colleagues, specifically those who are already handling courses, those who are already academics in the house, in the audience. I think this is the perfect opportunity to engage our students. We plan together, so we ask them again about what are their expectations. Okay, and there is the need for us to manage those expectations. So we have to be very clear with them. Let's communicate expectations. Let them also communicate their expectations, and let's see what areas are doable for the semester given limited access, again, limited resources, so that we can better implement, okay, the delivery of the course for the semester. So again, openness, we have to be honest, and then we communicate and be flexible also, because I'm sure with the pandemic, there is some sort of um changes in the sleep pattern of not only students but even the academics, no? So the teachers also have somehow altered their sense of time. So that's where really the use of other platforms for communicating is important, so that you can both agree on what can be done and how to manage these expectations.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis. So to our participants, if you have any more question, you might type it in the Q&A or you may ask directly. Some of our participants now are in the panelists. So if you would like to ask directly to our speaker, you may do so. You just have to raise a hand if you would like to ask some question. Do we have any question here? None. No more question or clarification. Okay, if there's no more question, again, we would like to say thank you very much to our speakers for today's webinar with the theme Moving Up from Traditional to Digital Classroom in Pandemic, COVID-19 in the Nursing Case. And also thank you also for our keynote speaker, Ibu Lili Nurlaili, and also thank you so much for the participants who are attending this webinar. I'm sure this webinar, we got many knowledge, we 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 have we have from the ITSPKU, they have the LMS, and also Sir Francis also shared about the way back about the what rethink and redesign, or more on about innovation. And also Bapa Wantonoro also shared about the nursing practice in Indonesia, and also Ibu Lili Nurlaili also shared about the hybrid learning. So we really learn a lot of things now. We have this hybrid learning, we have this blended learning, and we have many strategies, or we can do something that it's just how to innovate something in order how to make our students more focused, and also to make our students engage with our subject. Again, before we end this program, we would like to request Ibu Lili if you want to say something, Ibu.
Okay, thanks a lot Mbak Manet. Terima kasih Mbak Manet. And this is the end of VR activity today. And this is the second webinar series collaboration between University Muhammadiyah with Indonesian attaché in Manila. Thank you for all of the speaker, Professor Earl, Francis, or Sumile. That is very influent, very a lot of information and very interesting. Your presentation, and also for Mr. Wantonoro from Muhammadiyah and Ibu Nurul Istiqomah. That is a lot of give explanation about what the activity and you are school in Indonesia and Philippines. We are still give information each other and more deeply information about what the activity in nursing in Philippines and Indonesia. And then thanks a lot for all participants. Until now is 131. And this activity is online using my Facebook. And if you are a friend or your colleagues is not have time to watching using the webinar, you just watching in my Facebook. Thank you. And then this is the last I'm talking about very useful webinar today for Indonesia and for Philippines. Thanks a lot. And then we meet again tomorrow. We have another webinar series. Thanks Ibu Manet. Terima kasih dengan mengucapkan alhamdulillah saya